And we are recording on Friday, January 2nd, 2026 at 10:08 a.m. Eastern Time. I knew I was going to fuck it up and I saved it with Mr. Halsey, English, Ian Burlingame, and Tom Luongo. You guys can go to the description, find the links to Twitter's, podcasts, YouTube's, all that good shit. And as I just told you guys, I'm going to mute myself until my Tums get here because I have a sore tummy. And I know that I'm a faggot and I don't care. It's just fucking awful, and I can't stop burping. It's driving me insane. It feels like Gitmo torture. But because I
Um,
haven't seen Tom in the longest
Tums,
time, you take it away.
how about baking soda, my friend? Go deal with
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
or some salt and warm water.
yeah. Salt and warm water will also help. You got to
Yeah,
get the pH. You gotta get the pH
yeah.
in your gut.
Salt.
Correct.
All
Yeah.
right, all right.
Yeah.
So raise the pH in your gut. Get the stomach acids cleaned up, and then move on.
Yeah.
And salt is a good buffer. And salt is a good buffer for that. And then anything that'll raise the pH, any kind of bicarbonate or gluconate or anything along those lines. So
Uh,
if you've got minerals in the house that are non-chloride or non-oxide, like carbonates, gluconates, citrates, whatnot, they'll all help a lot.
and they'll break the acids down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Hi, chemist. Sorry,
Where
can't
I
help
started,
myself.
I never went as
Yeah.
far as you did, but that's what I started in was chemistry.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's all
Decades
good. All
ago.
right. So, folks, it's 2026, and I think it's going to be the most dangerous and lamest year ever. I think that's where I want to put it. I honestly think it's going to be that. So, I've got multiple people trying to get a hold of me this morning. Sorry. So that's
It's an
where
election year. They're going to see
right.
if they can steal the election and the down ballot more than the up
Mhm.
ballot.
Right.
Because that's, if you're going to move to step 7 of the financialist kill chain or phase 6, what we call an unconventional warfare, you have to have as much the down ballot as you possibly can while distracting us with, the up ballot stuff,
Agreed. Yeah.
right?
So yeah.
Which does benefit us in that they have to back off of the worst of the behavior, at least until next year.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I'm thinking is that they either have to accelerate completely, and I think Trump and company are pushing them into accelerating as quickly as possible. That's the way I'm reading like all these moves, like all the smurping stuff that's coming out about particular squishies in Congress, in the Senate. I think
Yeah.
is a very very big tell. I think Venezuela, as we've all discussed at nauseum ad infinitum, I think is also
Yeah.
part of that acceleration thing. So it's like, look, guys, you want to have your lame color revolution on your time schedule. No.
Yeah.
Just like you want to have the dissolution of the United States to break our bond markets and to break our and break all of that on your time schedule. No, if the United States is going to balkanize, it's going to happen on our time schedule, not yours. This has been my argument for what, 4 years now? I've been
That's
saying
just
shit like
war.
this.
That's what you do
That's
at
the way it is.
war.
Exactly.
Because we are at war, right?
Of course.
And people need to understand that the tactics and strategies for the battlefield, the kinetic battlefield, are very much the same for every other battlefield.
Right.
It's just
Exactly.
the mechanisms are different.
Agreed. And so once you look at it from that perspective, it shouldn't be all that difficult to see the moves in that context. And old martial artists, it's like the little bit of competition fighting that we actually trained for or actually did. My instructor would look at me and go, "If you want to get the point, Tom, you got to go first." And I'm like, but I'm a counter fighter. Like, yeah, I know. Like, but if you want the point, you got to go first because that's the way things operate. Like, go first, take the space. Use your feet, take the
That's
space,
the
and then
system we're
go.
in right now. The system we're in is not build things; it's win through getting points.
hmm Yeah, yeah. Well, that's also an interesting metaphor. I didn't mean it that way because
I
really
know, but
it applies to point sparring as much as it applies to real honest to ground fighting. When you're, as Putin has said multiple times, when you know a fight's coming, you go first and you set the tempo in the battlefield.
yeah, but that's only when you're going. Yeah, so not to
Okay,
belabor a point, right? But
sure.
part of the problem we have is that we look at everything as like fencing and martial arts now.
Mm,
It's all point-based system. No,
mm,
war is destruction,
yeah.
total and absolute destruction. And yes, you don't want to be the one that moves first, but when it goes kinetic, you don't want to be the one who moves second. But the problem that we have in our modern system, conceptually across the board, and this is an estrogenic thought process and system and regime, is it's all based off of winning through through taking points rather than actual reality, which is just no. If I know that, just as Russia is doing now, if I know that there is no other recourse, I'm not here to get points. I'm here to destroy you until you can no longer rise again to try and get another point. No, I'm going to put you down so there are no more points.
Right.
That's real fight across every dimension. Yeah. But unfortunately, the way in which we equate most successes and things is getting points. And I didn't mean to, attack your concept or idea, but
no, I think you just made my point even more obvious. The difference between point sparring and actual
fight,
an actual training to fight for real, right?
Yeah.
And we did, in my martial arts school, we did a bit of both. We did a little bit of everything. But we did mostly the latter. Train for war, train for self-defense, train for take that guy out, hit him 3 times, put him on the ground, walk away. And once a year we would get out of that mindset or so to train the other way, just to get us out of our comfort zones. Basically, it's the way we used it, and it was very valuable philosophical lesson, because that's why we were all there. We were all there to beat the shit out of each other and learn how to do it, learn how to take a punch and throw a punch or more, and survive. And then at the same time, develop the situational awareness of knowing when the fight's inevitable or how can you avoid it completely. Because, at the end of the day, the best form of self-defense is not to put yourself in a position where you have to fight. So.
Yeah, well, that's the 99% of the fight that's left of bang.
Exactly. Exactly. Halsey, you've been quiet, my friend. How are you? How you been?
I'm good. I don't see all this fighting and kinetic warfare. I just don't see it. I don't see it's something that's going to happen. I don't see that preparing for it should be top priority right now. I think that things are going a lot better than people are giving them credit for, and I just don't see it. So it's tough to sit here and argue what is the best war plan when I don't see a war coming.
You're in the 99%.
I see anybody wanting?
You're stuck in the 99% left to bang, and may we never get to bang, right? But do you think that these folks are going to go down without a bang?
No, I think these folks are going to keep doing exactly what they are doing. And I think that our system was set up to let them keep doing what they're doing. I think that our system was set up as the states being the incubator of national policy. And I think you're seeing the results. I think you're seeing people moving to red states because red states are actually implementing real policies that help real people. I think you see the blue states falling into a death roll of debt and despair. And yes, there are problems. There have been problems since the founding, problems that have been seemingly impossible to overcome. And yet we've overcome them. So I don't have this kind of black pill inside of me that sees it.
This isn't about black pills. This isn't about pills. No, hold on a second. There was a time in this country where that worked, and then we went to civil war, and roughly 750,000 people were killed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the tell is Europe. Does Europe devolve? Right now, it's all out clarion call for war. That has very little to do with Russia and everything to do with being very close to revolution. And I wrote a piece this morning. I suspect we're closer to revolution than people think, because all the things that are happening at the top don't touch at least 60% and never will, if not more. So the tell is Europe. Does Europe devolve? Because it has very much the same pressure valves and systems and this, Tom, back to what you're articulating, this bureaucratic war-fighting ring in which, they can score points against one another and they win this, decades or this, quarter centuries round. So we have to wait and see, as that's all, as the only way in which all of that worked was American middle class dollars. Mm-hmm. All of that, artificial pressure valve stuff to let off these types of tensions has all been sustained at the expense of the middle class, which now no longer exists, right? Because the people who won points had to get paid. They had to get the purse for that winning, right? To use the metaphor a little more. Okay, well, the purse doesn't exist anymore. We can't pay the prize fighters, the political, et cetera, prize fighters anymore. So what happens? What happens when you build a system and an organization around conflict? Because that's what bureaucratic government, the Westphalian model system is. It just virtualized from, every year having war, kinetic wars to we'll do it every 10 years, every 20 years, and we'll fight the rest of it out in these, governmental international law systems, right? Or national state systems. That was what Westphalia was really about. The problem is that it only works as long as it can continue to get funded. Mm-hmm. We can't fund it anymore. The
No, you're pontificate away, and you're right on point. All I was going to say is, getting ready this morning for this one, I saw the note this morning that Maduro is capitulating completely in Venezuela, as we all expected him to do. No. But it was, but what was important about that was exactly also what we've all been talking about, which is that Maduro isn't the bad guy; he's the puppet. He's the figurehead for the architecture underneath him. That's where the real war is.
Right.
And then I put up a post this morning saying, "Look, y'all have been." This is a good outcome, because what the Trump administration understood was that if you attack the foundation, you can leave Maduro in place.
Correct. Continuity.
And more importantly, Maduro would never make that announcement that he's willing to flip if Trump and Hegseth and the rest of them had not created a reality on the ground where they have the upper hand in the situation.
Where Maduro's safe and his family's safe.
Right, where Maduro is safe, he can now switch sides and everything's fine. And and both sides of the anti-war crowd got it all wrong. The anti-imperialists on the left all screamed, "Venezuela's a victim of American imperialism." Bullshit. Yes. And the anti-war right just revealed themselves as a bunch of pathetic bedwetters who don't have a goddamn bedwetting lunatics who just sat around justifying their pathetic passivity, and the whole thing was clearly obvious that the problem here is that they've defined war as only when two states' armies fight across arbitrary political borders, when the reality is that the state of war in the world is the default, and it's being promulgated by non-state actors. And sometimes you got to use a fucking state to come in and the non-state bullshit. And that's the flip of the script that none of these people can understand. And that's why you're watching these crash outs all across the alternative media, either because they had this pathetic anti-American imperial ideology that was okay with BRICS imperialism or okay with European imperialism or Chinese imperialism, but not American imperialism. Fuck a whole lot of that stuff. And you all know who I'm talking about, but I'll name the one who just came out of her CCP approved box wine stupor, fucking Caitlin Johnstone. First time in years I've seen her fucking name, and she's all over Twitter recently. And I'm like, oh, okay. And everybody else that you all know. And then the rest of them on the right, like the Scott Hortons and the Daniel McAdams and everybody on the libertarian right, got it all wrong because they're just in default mode of being in their little bedwetting oppositional defiance disorder, because these people are all fucking children.
They live in a world of point systems.
Right.
They don't understand that war is a perpetual thing. And there are no points. There's advantages and disadvantages and flows and ebbs and movements.
And so, to Halsey's point that he doesn't quite see there's a potential for kinetic, or that it's going to go kinetic, I think you might have misunderstood what Ian and I were talking about, which is that we can see the potential for the kinetic warfare. We can see that they want to maneuver us into kinetic warfare, just like they've been trying to maneuver Trump and Putin into kinetic warfare for years over Ukraine, and it's not happening. The same thing they did with effectively kinetic warfare over Israel and Iran. And while it was kinetic, it was only kinetic for 12 days. And at the end of the day,
it wasn't armies on armies, and it wasn't mass casualties, wasn't mass, right? Look at what's happening, most of what
we're all kind of right. My point is that we're all kind of right about this, and that we're just kind of talking not past each other, but right.
Totally. I totally agree, Tom. I was not saying we were going kinetic this year. In fact, I said quite the opposite. They can't go kinetic this year. They have to try and win the down ballot. Everything in 2026 is about this midterm election. And again, it's not about the congressmen or senators at the federal level. It's about all of the down ballot, right? Can they reverse, and Halsey, to something you said, we are still a republic. We are still a federated republic. And yes, there is competition happening in the states, but I don't think it's quite what you think it is, red-blue flows anymore, unfortunately, because if you look at the capitals in the major cities, even in the red states, they're all heavy blue. So one has to, right? So one really has to wonder, well, but now they have these much larger populations, gives them much better, different representational balances in their states, et cetera, et cetera. So all power is local power. Any power that's, used at the top is an accumulation of lower level power. It's the same thing, Tom, you can articulate this way better than me, but all chemistry is actually still atomic. It's not at the level of the slurry or the whatever. No. It's still all atomic. Well, okay, well, that's the same as, national power. It's all still based off of local and, quite literally local and small level power that's aggregated through various systems, structures, processes, et cetera. So 2026, they don't want to take it unless they have to, unless they're afraid of something, which I suspect would be outside forces, Europe interference more than anything else. They can't go violent this year. They can't go kinetic this year. In fact, they have to do everything they can to even lessen, the incidental kinetic, the small scale local effery, right?
Again, what I see coming is completely different than what most people see coming, and I'm either going to be very right or very wrong. Like, I have no real potential for in between. And what I see coming is a radical changing of the guard in terms of the dollar. And I think that that's what we're headed for. That's what we're being prepared for. That's what all the problems you're seeing around the world is being prepared for, is that we're at a position where we're going to have to debase the currency again. We've done it many times in history. We're going to have to do it again. And it's going to lead to a lot of pain. And I think that pain is either going to be suffered by Americans, or we're going to mitigate it. And I think they're doing everything they can to mitigate it. I think the problem with Venezuela is one of the big mitigation factors, in that Venezuela is the hub of illegal migration into the U.S. And when they say it's about drugs, it's not about just the shipping of the drugs. It's about the people who are shipping the drugs through Venezuela. You're talking about Hezbollah. You're talking about the Syrian underground. You're talking about Iran. You're talking about the axis of resistance that has been.
No, we're not.
No, okay. So again, we can disagree. I don't agree with you. I think that's what this is about. I think that what this is about is the fact that these organizations are acquiring cash in order to do these things. And I think at the heart of it all is illegal migration. And I think that's how they're changing our system, is by bringing in all of these thousands and tens of thousands of illegals in order to rob our system blind. And I think that a lot of the actions that Trump's taking worldwide are to stop these illegal flows of immigrants into the states and to starve them once they're here.
So
And I
totally
think,
agree with the immigration issue. It's the point that we need to be very careful of and stop promulgating is who's behind it. Iran and the axis of resistance has fuck all to do with any of this.
I disagree.
You can disagree all you want. They have F all to do with this, right?
I think
you do not give your enemy the casus belli they are calling for to go to war with you.
You do if you don't think they will.
Look at the flows of money. They are not flowing to Iran. They are not. Yes, Hezbollah. Who does Hezbollah work for? Britain. Who does Hamas work for? Britain.
When I thought the underlying premise with all of this is that it's all flowing to Britain.
Correct,
When I say the axis of resistance, I'm talking about the British axis of resistance. I'm not talking about whenever I'm talking about a government that has a problem with America, I understand that it originates in Britain. I thought that was just a given.
Do you think most of what we know about Iran has any basis in reality whatsoever?
No.
Or is it not filtered through all of the informational sources, including intel sources that are all right? So the Five Eyes are the keepers of the artificial realities and all the sub branches that we live in.
Yep.
The Five Eyes are the City of London. And before that, right? So go ahead.
So I'm gonna throw something. I'm gonna tie this right back to Maduro. And I think this is something that I've talked about. I don't know if I've talked about it with you, EM. I think you and I, Halsey, talked about it the last time we were together, which is I just laid out a model of Maduro as the figurehead we're all supposed to hate, right? I don't, and think about, what happened the last time anybody tried to institute a gold-backed currency in the Middle East. Gaddafi dragged through the streets, Saddam Hussein killed, everything else, right? So the Iranian, the quote-unquote, I don't look at the Ayatollah, I don't look at Ayatollah Khomeini and see evil. You know what I see? I see Maduro.
Correct.
Okay. The IRGC, all of that stuff that's on the layer underneath him is the problem. That's where it's either the French and or the British. There's multiple factions. And, I can look at Iran and I can start to pull it apart by faction and go, is this just another French and British internal civil war of colonization, as always, while trying to blame the United States and get the United States involved in a war. So, so that's the way I'm looking at it at this point. So let's talk about the protests that are on the ground in Iran right now. I don't have a good feel for them, but I can tell you can put 4 or 5 different scenarios on the table, and they're probably all equally probable and or potentially correct. One of which could be that the Ayatollah feels strong enough now because the IRGC has been weakened enough that he's going in and wiping out various aspects of the IRGC using people on the ground. That's one. I don't know if it's true.
It's true,
but that's the one I would like to believe. That's the one I would like to believe is true. EM. Obviously the other one, but Trump comes out this morning and says, if you shoot any of the protests, well, I guess that's support. If you go out and shoot any one of these protesters, then we're locked and loaded and ready to go. So maybe that actually supports that thesis.
Okay, Tom and Halsey, to what you're saying, Halsey, right? I have written things and I've talked, I keep banging, right? Praetorian problem.
Right.
People really need to take a step back. The IRGC was created by London, by the City of London, by MI6 to control the elites and the leadership of Iran, Persia.
Right.
Straight up. Right?
Not
the IRGC
with that at all.
Is the Praetorians. There. Okay. Well, who are the Praetorians all over the world? Look at the security. Now, the other piece is the mercenary problem I've written about, the mob state problem. Okay. But I keep coming back to the Praetorian problem because people don't see it for what it is. And Tom, you just laid it out. Why does Israel strike those IRGC people? Now, this gets to another thing. Is Israel still in the City of London's camp? Or have they decided to break free? Because the people they killed, the IRGC guys, were actually trying to mount a coup against the Ayatollah on behalf of the City of London. And they got taken out. And now they're going after their lieutenants and second in command and the others that are trying to carry out. Okay.
Yeah, I know. And that's the interesting part about it. If you look at what was actually attacked, with the targets that were attacked, both and we heard about. Remember, EM, to your point, to what you and Blaine have talked about a lot, which is that the stuff they tell us is the stuff they want us to know, and the stuff and so they told us that they took out all these IRGC generals on the first night. Israel did on June 12th, right? But then we also heard from Iran that they hit the Mossad headquarters, and they hit this right, and they hit this spot, they hit this spot, and they hit that spot, right? So everybody's playing that game of letting everybody else know what the high value targets really were, which is that we're trying to de-escalate the whole situation.
If you're going to take out the Praetorians, which are everywhere, it's pretty hard for you to move against them yourselves openly, because they're your own security forces. They're your own, they're your own intelligence forces. So how are you going to move against them? Well, I might want one of my neighbors to move against them. And then I might return the favor by hitting some of their British assets in their own security system and structure. And if I can't hit them directly, I might leave a message that we can hit you, so you might want to change sides. Right? How do you prevent a war that's 40 years in the making? You take out all the bad actors in your own camp, or you get, you work with somebody else, outside externally, right? This is a mob war, right? It's a mob war.
So interestingly enough, I'm now going to anticipate a lot of the comments of the people who are listening to this. But for the people who are on the side of on either side, but Iran was building a nuclear weapon and everything else. Like, the IRGC was building a nuclear weapon, but the Ayatollah issued the fatwa against nuclear weapons. So that's schizophrenia.
So they tried to coup him. So they tried to coup him.
I'm not trying to paint the Khamenei as a good guy, but I'm telling you that there are signals, counter signals going back and forth, and a lot of the schizophrenia over all of the information we've been given is more explanatory under this model. Not wholly explanatory. There are still nuances we're missing. I'm sure Halsey's going to go to fill those in, and that's perfectly fine. I expect you to. I can see it. I can see the look on your face, dude. You and I have been friends for a decade now, and that's fine. But the point is to really start to reframe what you think you know about this whole situation is all I'm trying to do here. And now we can get closer to the truth, and we can start to fill in some more details. And while these details that we filled in may not be the right color red, we're red now and not yellow. Right.
So again, it all comes back to two words that we really need to use as the key, right? The catalyst for chemists, or the encryption key for tech people, or the trigger for financial transactions, right?
Activation energy for chemists.
The activation energy. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
You're
okay.
welcome. You're welcome.
Praetorian problem. We have a Praetorian problem. The British Empire and the French, by the way, embedded this stay behind security apparatus. They never surrendered the colonies. They didn't have to.
I have to, for everybody listening, why I haven't talked to have heartburn because I'm a faggot. Coefficient of static friction. I have to because I'm a narcissist with an ego. I have to insert some intelligence. Coefficient with static friction. That's what it takes for something on an angle to start sliding. Sorry, I gotta jerk myself off to feel better. All right, sorry, keep going.
Coefficient of static friction in physical terms is exactly the same as activation energy in chemical terms.
In chemistry,
that's the chip on my shoulder.
All right, so Halsey, poke holes in us, or tell us where our nuances miss.
No, it's what EM says is not wrong. Okay, and what you're saying is not wrong. It's the idea that these nation states that were carved out by the British in the 30s and 40s in the Middle East are some kind of inviolable national sovereign that we're supposed to care about. In fact, they're all made up of distinct minorities that hate each other. And what the City of London benefits from is making sure that none of these minorities are able to establish any form of independence whatsoever. And in doing so, they keep even the state actors constantly in a state of war, right? Yes. So the reason they're stirring up protests in Iran right now is not so much about the IRGC and Khamenei. It's about the Kurds, the Baluch, the Awaz, the Arabs, all of these people in this massive country of Iran who are all starving to death, who all hate each other and are never ever going to unite against the regime because they dislike each other as much as they dislike the regime. So you keep the chaos in Iran and you keep the West on a hair trigger in ready to go in and help some kind of nameless, faceless people because we don't know what, even if we went in tomorrow and started slaughtering IRGC, what does that accomplish? Right? Who does it put in charge? It doesn't put anyone in charge. It creates
Right.
another state of chaos in which Europe decides to stay relevant. Because after all, they can stick up for every different minority group whenever they get a bug up their ass that one of them is getting a little bit too powerful. You're even seeing that in the issue that I could care less about, which is this whole Somaliland thing, right? Like we're bringing up another issue that we're not supposed to care about at all, and yet we're finding a reason to care about.
Right.
Right? Like, we don't care about Somalia or Somaliland. What we care about is the Somalians who are stealing tens of billions of dollars out of the American system and flooding them back into Africa and Europe.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what we're supposed to care about. But instead, we're talking about independence for a little area of Somalia, which we really shouldn't care about. Right?
And then
It gives
and then
the
the
argument for why these people are here in the first place to steal all of this money because we owe them something. I've written on this as well. How did the British, exactly the ant jars, as our friend Alex says, right? How does the ant jar get created? The ant jars are not organic because over thousands of years, those folks figured out how to put themselves in places where they didn't have this nonstop conflict. This goes back to Rome. This is what Rome did 2,000 plus years ago. Right? It moved populations around under different guises and arguments. So I've written on this extensively as well. What's being done is they cause these problems around the world to justify bringing in ants that don't mix with us native ants, so that then they have levers to turn up violence here and there. So
and to your point, Halsey, about Somalia versus Somaliland, then they drop that into the zeitgeist, into the social media zeitgeist, for all the juicebergs to come up out of the woodwork to go, oh, look at the timing on this. The Israelis want to back Somaliland, and now we're going after the Somalis. Can't you see the grift, boys? And I'm like, oh my fucking God, you're falling for it again because you're a bunch of just fucking anti-Semitic pogues.
well, half of
I'm
them
sorry.
are bots. More and more.
Yeah,
I'm looking
and
at
well,
the back
the
end,
other half
most
of them are
they're
bots.
just
But
bots.
it's even worse for the people I know who are real people who are supposedly smart. And I'm like, oh, really? Why don't you tell me how you work for the city of London without telling me you work for the city of London? Like, I'm so fucking over it, dudes. It's retarded. I'm like, I was on a stream. I was on a big round table yesterday, and that got like thrown in there, and I was like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, no way. That Somalia, that's an example of going all the way back to the beginning of the conversation of what I was saying earlier about Trump's going first. He's accelerating by attacking the massive corruption and getting the American population ready and willing for him to use the military to move these fucking cockroaches out, because he's going to need to. He's going to need to get as much diesel fuel or jet fuel as possible, whatever you fly a C-130 on, and get those C-130s like lined up, doing touch and goes between here and fucking Mogadishu, and just dropping these people off the back of the goddamn fucking runways at the back of a C-130, touch and go and get back and keep doing it. And he's been doing this all of 2026, and he still won't make a fucking dent in these people.
It's 100 million. And they're openly saying it now. 100 million. It took 40 years to get them in here.
Right. And the thing I saw this morning, which was fascinating, because I was in that stream, and I was the last one to basically make my opening argument. And after all the black pillars had their moment of victory, and then me and Joaquin Flores like tag teams. Joaquin starts out doing his epistemological thing, and then I come in, guns blazing, going fuck black pilling, and oh, by the way. So but the thing about it was, I'm like, guys, yesterday I said, do you realize that all the shit that we're complaining about, the lack of affordable housing, the inflation, the commodity pricing, the this, the that, all of this stuff, the price of education, insurance, and all of that was all created by the marginal inflow bringing in these fucking people by President fucking Autopen. and handing them our tax money to then bid up the price of these services. Well, I saw a tweet this morning, which the marginal price for renting in, I think it's Austin or someplace in fucking Texas, has dropped from $1,800 a month to $12, and is dropping rapidly as they clean up the fucking board, as they clean up and start cleaning.
This was Cloward Piven. This goes back to the 50s and 60s. So this was very well done. So
what my point is that there it is. We're already fixing the unaffordability crisis because we're taking the marginal demand off of the static supply of goods, food, gasoline, services, housing, insurance, wealth, all of it. Mm-hmm. And you're going to watch a massive disinflationary impulse hit in the first half of this year. It'll finally start showing up in the first half of this year, and the middle class is all of a sudden going to start looking like they can actually survive. And that is going to be the fortification for Trump. And if the Democrats and these fucking feckless rhino motherfuckers under John Thune in the Senate don't get their shit together quickly, the minute the people say it's okay, go in with the fucking military and get rid of these people, and they turn around and go, well, no, you can't really do that. At that point, they're done. They will have to fall in line behind the president when it's an 80-20 issue for the people to say, yes, use the fucking military and get this thing over and done with, because we've exhausted every other option. And they won't have any chance. They won't be able to sit back and obstruct and and clutch their fucking pearls anymore. They will have been revealed for the traitors they are, and if they want to make it through the goddamn primary season, this is what it's going to look like, because Elon Musk and JD Vance are in charge of the money. That's what the fucking fight over Susie Wild was about. That's why that cunt went out to Vanity Fair and did 11 hours worth of friggin' interviews, because she wanted control over the candidate list and the donors and the donor list. Mm-hmm. And Elon Musk and JD Vance said, and Eric Trump, by the way, all said, nuts to that bullshit. It's now time. It's go time. And then this is how you get Thune to knuckle under. And then, of course, you release all the money that they've been smurfing. And that just makes it even worse. So I think they're winning. I think this is the way you also, to Halsey's point, avoid the summer of violence that they clearly think they need to gin up.
I think it's how it makes it inescapable. Because again, right, we're talking trillions of dollars a year of graft, basically, and not of it legal graft, right, through inflated asset values, et cetera. But you're talking trillions of dollars a year, probably tens of trillions actually in asset value appreciation, conflated asset value appreciation, et cetera. Tax bases, right? That's the other thing that, that's really going to cause problems, is the decrease in taxation, particularly around property tax and sales tax, right? And so do we think that these folks are going to, now, can we prevent a kinetic action? I don't know, right? I don't know. That would take some pretty serious steel in, at least 60% of America's back. And do we have that, right? But the thing that really concerns me is that I've been through one of these divorces. When she and her attorney realizes that, the divorce is going to happen and it's going to finalize and there are no more assets for discovery, there is nothing more to take. And I'm done with, spending $10,000 to respond to every freaking little thing you say. What do? They go scorched earth. They go scorched earth to take absolutely everything from you that they possibly can and to leave you ruined.
That's what I'm worried about. I agree. Yeah. And that's why, and that's what they're doing in New York. That's what this morning they came out and said, we're authorizing $5 million in reparations to the city of San Francisco when these people were $1 billion in the fucking budgetary hole. That is pure vandalism. What they're doing.
Why'd they put Mamdani in New York? So he can use the legal infrastructure, the bureaucratic infrastructure, and the legal use of force to keep all of that to control the wealth represented by New York and New York's institutions.
Yeah, but what he's winding up doing is he's winding up forcing a wealth transfer into the red states. You're already talking about the New York Stock Exchange, talking about leaving. which would be literally the death of New York. Like New
I
York
get that,
without
but
the
all those things take time, right? That's the
Sure.
issue, right? These things always accelerate right towards the end, right? So all of those that transfer, the wealth transfer, and then they can do like California did, right? What did California do? California made their wealth tax retroactive for anybody who left the state, right? Because the problem that we have is we live in a, the tax code and the tax system, the theft system, the legalized theft system, is all based off laws, off legal codes. And they can change the legal codes, 1 3-night omnibus session. And they've changed all the codes and all the laws that invalidates every protection legally, invalidates every protection your assets have. That's what Europe's doing right now. This is what the whole battle, people don't realize what the battle over Russia's frozen assets was really about. And it was an all-out war that most people don't realize was they were Europe in every form, fashion. Unfortunately, we too, until Trump et al. Got control, Bessent got control, et cetera. They were in an all-out war to figure out how to legally change the codes, the laws, not just national, but international laws, et cetera, trade, so that they could legally steal those assets. People have to understand every single thing that the Nazis and everything, the National Socialists and everything the communists did in Russia and Germany and Europe were all done in accordance with German and Soviet law. Right? So people think, okay, well, I'm safe and secure. I'll just go to another state. Well, the problem is your assets, right? What are your assets? Where are your assets? How are they reflected? And how can laws be changed by bureaucratic slave systems and monopoly seekers such that your wealth is just invalidated now?
I don't disagree with what you just said. In fact, I see that being an overreach by the powers that be in order to try to step into a system that they're not able to control. Like, why is the wealth tax only geared towards people that have unbelievable wealth? They say it's because obviously they want to attack the people that have the unbelievable wealth. But the reason is because their assets are still kept in California banks.
Correct.
So they can
exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, and real estate and yeah. No, that's exactly right. And even if they move it to another state or a nation state, as we've seen, on the threat finance side of things when I was doing targeting, they can come after assets that have been moved to another legal jurisdiction on all kinds. This is what we did to try and recover the stolen wealth in Switzerland. This is why Swiss banking isn't, the big power of Swiss banking anymore. We spent 30 years going after them legally to try and recover those assets. Of course, we got maybe 7% total, right?
But you're bringing up a big point, EM, that I think that you've considered it. I don't think you're explaining it to everyone else. Is when the Swiss banking system collapsed because of transparency laws, right? Where did all the money move? It moved to the Caribbean, Panama, and Venezuela.
Luxembourg.
But I'm saying that's the vast majority went to the places where Trump is putting on the fire right now.
Well, Tom and I talked this before. Yeah, it's the spider's web. Much of it went into the spider's web.
Right. So what I'm saying though is that a lot of the things you're seeing, and again, it goes back to something you said, EM, that kind of changed my perspective on a lot of these things. Qatar is us.
Yes.
Right? Yes. All these people are us. They're our intelligence service. They're our Democrats. Correct. They're the people that are moving the chess pieces. Agreed. But they're the ones moving the chess pieces into place to generate outrage at something they have no intention of changing. Like the Somalis stealing all the money, and you're already seeing all the mayors and governors coming out going, "Oh, this is racism," right? The fact that they're trying to get our money back from all of these scams. Like the fact that there's no outrage from these people at the scam show they knew about it the whole time. Right? Otherwise they would have no choice but to show some level of outrage.
Right? It's not necessarily true. They just don't want you looking at what they're doing.
Quick question for me. Yeah. When did you said Swiss banking collapse, transparency laws? When was that?
Early 2000s.
Yeah, I was
early
about to say.
2000s.
You guys,
Yeah,
The
it was,
attack
you
started in the 60s, actually.
you guys might
against them.
wanna, you guys might enjoy talking to Bradley Birkenfeld, the UBS whistleblower that got it done, and it led to all of that. And he got the largest ever whistleblower award, 104 million. I'm friends with him. I've had him on the show. You guys might really enjoy talking to him. Sorry, keep going.
Well, I was in
No.
investment banking at the time, and I know the Luxembourg royal family, and all of that stuff was happening. It was really rather extraordinary. And what started it was very much to this part of the conversation, right? There was vast amounts equivalent today of something like we don't know exactly, 10 to 20 trillion dollars stolen during World War II by the National Socialists and others, by the way, right? And much of it laundered by the Dulles brothers, by Alan Dulles and et cetera, even before the war. And so there was a substantive effort to try and pierce the private banking structures in Switzerland to try and recover it. And very much to what Halsey said, we were able. It took 60 years though of nonstop legal state level actions, et cetera, to even pierce that. By that time, they slipped most of that wealth out to elsewhere into other structures, or it would take you another 60 years to try and pierce those veils. So what
they focused on more was ensuring that it couldn't flow back into those areas. And that was through a system called FBAR, where you had to register every foreign bank account. If you're an American citizen overseas, you had to register a bank account, whether it had anything in it or not. If it had a quarter in it, you still had to register with the IRS that the bank account existed. Yes. And therefore, like, if all of a sudden you showed up with on welfare in the States with no money in the bank whatsoever, but you're living like a king, they could track your money as to which jurisdiction. When it comes to which jurisdiction, it comes down to who are you working for.
So problem we have there is double trust structures, which I might or might not know some very, very good attorneys that do these things.
Of course.
So that it doesn't trace back, 3-4 layers before the family ever gets any kind of pittance out of. When I say pittance, I mean they live comfortably, et cetera, but it's all these trust structures, et cetera. Point being is this: they spent the last 40 years of stealing tens of trillions, let's say $100 trillion of wealth. And they put it in these different structures. Only some of that wealth, because most of that is, derivatives, right? Only some of that wealth is actually physical that can be repossessed. The rest of it is reflected in accounts and ledgers all over the world, which are many layers deep. It took us roughly 60 years to pierce Switzerland's, banking laws, using the legal system. Well, they just keep moving the assets and the wealth around. Right? So how do you, Tom, you do an extraordinary job of talking about how we're bringing down prices and all these other things. The issue that we have is we are never going to recover the wealth that was stolen.
No.
The only thing that we can do is erase it.
Yep. I was going to say destroy it. So we're thinking the same thing. Yeah.
And you just, and again,
that was the most unified I've ever seen you three together.
We achieved it.
Here's the thing that's funny about the three of us.
No,
but here's the thing that's funny about the three of us. We generally agree on everything. We just tend to look at it from different angles. So it's like when they said, "Oh, this is the city of London," I was like, I thought that was just a given between the three of us, that's what we were talking about. Like, I understand it doesn't need to be explained between the three of us. It just needs to be explained by anybody watching us talking. Because what looks like we're disagreeing, we all agree with this same premise. Like, in fact, that's what we're talking about is how will the city of London be defeated? Right. And we're just looking at it from different angles because we have different expertise. So like I'm looking at it from an international flair. Tom's looking at it from a financial flair. EM's looking at it from a cultural, financial / historical flair. And we're bringing it all together to say the exact same thing.
Absolutely. Sometimes you just have to sometimes we each have to take a step back to make sure that we're taking care of and serving the audience who may not understand what the fuck we're talking about. Exactly. Really what it comes down to. Right. And
audience is a very nice euphemism for me. I'll say that all the time. Like, could you explain that to the audience? And they're like, what? And I'm like, can you explain it to me? I'll be like, for the audience, can you tell them can you tell them what concerted means? And then I'll be like, it's for me.
to all your points, like let's go back to some of the things that Ian and Halsey and I have all talked about in the past, which is that you've got three layers of money, right? You got the public money that they've been stealing, and now we're cutting off that. You got the private money, which we're now working on in Venezuela and Iran and all the other stuff. By the way, I expect the Chinese to take Hong Kong, not Taiwan. The only thing that makes sense if you want to take.
Well, they already have
London,
Hong Kong.
Well, they have it, but they're going to take it back early, and they're going to force the British.
That's already done. What they're going to do is they're going to expel the rest of the British infrastructure that's there. I think that's what you're saying.
That's what I'm getting. That's effectively what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So effectively,
which they're also, by the way, Xi came out. I'm terribly sorry, but Xi came out the other day and has articulated that that's really what they're doing with Taiwan right now, and they're almost finished with that.
Yeah, excellent point. Thank you. And then the third thing is, of course, so once you've done that, then you got to get them to put their own money on the table, and that's what so much of the silver squeeze is about, the gold squeeze is about, so much, and so much of the copper squeeze. And look, I want you guys to think about this, and I've said it in other forums. Now I'm going to say it again. And really think about this in the context of everything the three of us have talked about so far this morning. Why is it that the two dominant industrial powers of the 21st century still use an 18th century's empire's power center and relationships as the pricing mechanism for all of the world's most important industrial inputs? It makes no fucking sense.
We also don't need an intermediator anymore.
Oh no! No.
We can directly settle real time.
We have been able to for a while.
I know. So again, get everybody like, those all the Jews. There's all that. No, it's London. It's always been London because look, you have to have the supply chain. Let's just use Venezuela, silver and copper and gold concentrate as the market. You've got silver concentrate coming out of Argentina. You've got copper coming out of Peru and Chile, not lesser to extent Chile in this model, and Central America. You've got silver coming out of Mexico. That's all going to flow through. I'm sorry, wait, for this purpose, let's keep it to the Caribbean. That all flows into Venezuela.
Correct.
That concentrate then gets smuggled out on oil tankers back to fucking China, or all goes up to the refiners in Switzerland, their. Okay, right. And then that feeds London. That's your supply chain, folks. And then that concentrate, the doré, all of that stuff, and when you get the final refined bars, who are all the commodity traders that make all the goddamn money? Trafigura, Glencore, these are all British companies. Rio Tinto, Bob, all of it. Right, probably even Freeport McMoran, if I really. If I remember correctly, Rio Tinto, all of those guys. So when you start BHP Billiton, right? Yep. These are all metals traders, right? So they're in control of the entire supply chain. Their banks have long-standing relationships with the miners who will take all of this waste production. So for the gold miners, copper and silver is waste. Right, Vince Lanci goes through this so brilliantly whenever he does it. For the silver miners, the gold and the copper is waste, and they'll just take the concentrate off their hands. For the copper miners, the gold and the silver are waste, and they make deals. And the Chinese have been in Central and South America pulling concentrate and doré out of those markets for years, and that market and that supply was not going to London or to New York. And so eventually New York had to get off of the triangle trade between the LBMA, the COMEX, and GLD and SLV to rehypothecate non-existent gold and silver when we got to the point where there just wasn't enough to satisfy the markets. Eventually you bring in a Trump administration that says, you know what? We're not playing that game anymore. We are going to control our supply chain of gold and silver. London has to depend on the Swiss, but if we make the pincer move on Venezuela, we break up the entire fucking trade. Now, take that one step further. That also means destroying the LME's ability to set the marginal price for aluminum, lead, tin, nickel, cobalt, lithium, this, that, everything. And the fucking final boss of this entire structure is Brent fucking crude. which is the collateral for the world. I've been screaming to the high heavens for 4 years now, since the beginning of the Biden juntas, or the President Otto Penn's policy of draining the SPR in the United States, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. If you go and you look at a chart of Brent crude, and you run a 5-year rolling average, which is what I do on every week, I have this data of what I would consider simple volatility of the oil contract, which is to just take weekly range and divide it by price. Brent crude went from about 2 to 3%, similar to gold and silver, to today it trades at 7.5% weekly volume. The volatility in oil was designed to destroy the ability for the capital markets to accurately price the future and figure out how to run an industrial economy. And how the fuck are you supposed to do so? And this was all fucking London and their fucking blackmail scheme. And Wall Street. Wall Street. Yeah. I mean, everybody was involved in it. But it was all running through the Brent crude contract. And everybody, I hate to explain this to everyone again, but not one fucking barrel of oil trades against the Brent crude contract. It is not a deliverable.
Correct.
It's just a fucking contract for difference run out of fucking London. It might as well be some shitty contract for difference run by some
it's
shitty
just price control
forex site in fucking Cyprus.
Yeah, it's just price
by
control.
a bunch of shitbag Greeks.
And now we go back to what I was talking about in the very, very beginning of this whole thing, where it seemed like we were disagreeing, but we're not. Okay, there's one market that London flourishes in that is being positively destroyed by everything you're just talking about. And that's the market in US and Chinese debt. Okay. Which the city of London owns a shit ton of and does not have the ability to get the commodities necessary to counter it. Not without us. And in destroying that, which we are, which is, again, why we're about to debase the dollar again, every sign points to it. The yield curves point to it. The rise in gold. And I know. There's no, I don't know a single economist who disagrees, who thinks that we're not debasing our currency right now. In debasing our currency, what we're doing is getting rid of our debt, okay, to make that our repayments serviceable. But the people that are going to get crushed are the people that hold that debt. Right. Now, who are the people that hold that debt? This is the sad part, us, Americans. And the good part of the people who hold the Chinese and American debt, Europe. Yeah. They're the ones who hold our debts.
As I've been saying for 4 years now, or more than 4 years now, that since Powell started the stealth tightening of the US dollar and the euro dollar system in June of 2021, by September of 2021, it was showing up in the tick report that the Europeans were having to defend the euro and European bond yields and bond spreads relative to US debt. And the tick report, they've been gorging themselves on US debt. They bought more than 1.5 trillion net. That's 20% of the central bank total reserves. 1.5 trillion. That's the net change in 4 years by Europe over the 9.2 trillion in U.S. debt held by foreign central banks.
So and what did we do at that exact same time? At that exact same time, we seemingly made the absolute bungling, stupid move, which was actually brilliant, of telling Saudi Arabia they did not have to only accept dollars for oil anymore. Okay, now Europe is fucked. Because no one has to buy U.S. Treasury bonds to settle oil contracts anymore. And it is so fucked because that was always their plan, is that those Treasury bonds would be needed by all of the world powers in order to settle petro debts, which now they're not necessary for. Okay? And it was a fucking time bomb shockwave that we've never seen before in the last 50 years.
It's the end of the euro dollar system. Right. And by the way, this is another why I believe ARC, America, Russia, China, has already happened. Because who led the back end infrastructure development for direct payments between states for oil? Russia and China through the rubric of BRICS, right? They worked out all the nuances of these markets. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No,
there's also something else I'm going to drop on you soon too. But go ahead.
No. So now let's talk about what's actually going on. So to go back to my argument, SOFR, our first attempt to get the control of the short end of the yield curve by getting control of monetary policy,
and regionalize again.
And then you've got Trump wanting to bring Fannie and Freddie back on the market to do what? Get control of the long end of our yield curve, so that we can now. So we need that, but there's a problem. There's a big problem. That big problem is we still don't have control of the short end of the yield curve. Why?
Correct.
The yen carry trade, and the yen carry trade is going away, folks.
It's over.
Yep.
It's over.
Big time.
What
do I keep saying? China, Japan, and the U.S. in debasement of the dollar will eradicate their over-consuming debt.
Well,
Without that debt, we don't have to worry so much about the settlement aspect of China, Japan, and America, nor do we have to worry about the interest angle. And what we were talking about in the very beginning, which is what I started to make the point, and we wanted to clarify that we were talking about the city of London still. What Hezbollah and Iran run through Venezuela is cash. It's the cash that pays these fucking migrants. It's the cash they hoard to support the drug trade and a lot of different petrodollar investments in the U.S. That cash is going to become more worthless every single day.
This gets to what Tom is articulating. That's the second, flow of capital. That's the illicit. I want to quibble one point because it is really very important. It is not Iran behind Hezbollah. It is not Iran benefiting from this or driving all of this. It is the city of London, Brussels, Amsterdam, Venice, etc. So while, the thing that we have to be careful is, again, being a targeting guy in the past, is that virtually everything we know about Hezbollah, Hamas, etc., comes out of the Five Eyes.
Agreed. But the part that you're leaving out that's so important in this, EM, is that in doing this, in taking Iran out as the eternal whipping boy of the Muslim world, okay, what you're destroying is Qatar, which is us. Okay,
well,
Qatar.
Hang on a second. Terribly sorry, but the war is being fought a little bit differently.
Agreed.
Okay,
but
Qatar is a funnel, yes, but that's been taken off the table. Right. Here's the thing it's going to be uncomfortable, and all it's the Jews, sons of bitches, are going to come out of the woodwork. I've just started blocking.
Which they are.
If somebody comes at me with this stuff, I literally block them. I don't care if I've known them for years or whatever, Alex, because it's like you have nothing to contribute to the conversation. Now, if you want to talk about specific Jews and specific ones in your participant, okay, let's talk that.
I always contribute that the Irish are above the Jews, and a lot of people don't know that.
There you go.
Yeah.
6 of the last 8 presidents in the United States were Irish, so that's probably way more true than you know.
The most liberal
the words look the same. They both begin with I. How come I never touch the Irish? It's very very interesting. Very interesting. Thomas Patrick Harrigan, he comes out of nowhere and he knows General Flint.
You Irish are getting back at us English for that whole potato thing 2 centuries ago, right?
American ground nuts, folks. American ground nuts. Okay, never mind. But
what I meant, EM, was that not that Qatar is just the hub. It's that the whole existence of our funneling money, our intelligence services funneling money into Qatar, is to protect the entire world from Iran and the IRGC. You take away that focal hub, right? And what do you get? You get the UAE and Saudi Arabia, who are both been given the green light to purchase F-35s, who have both been having little skirmishes here and there, but doing basically everything Trump has told them to do, right? Including normalizing ties with Israel, including bringing money into the Jelani regime in a way that doesn't give them cash to go murder people. It gives them cash to pay off the IMF. Yes. Okay, like the reason that you're doing that is because you're blunting the intelligence services ability to focus our military on Qatar, which focuses on the IRGC, which is London. So what I'm saying
is substantially more complicated than that, but
I agree. But I'm trying to make it as simple as possible.
You got to remember, we got to walk the people through it. And then the interesting part about Jelani in Syria is that, of course, now you're driving a wedge between him and Erdogan being Muslim Brotherhood. After all these years,
and being London,
I said this an hour after Assad, picked up and left. He didn't flee; he was asked to leave for a while. There is one great British threat in the world today, militarily, and it's Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be attrited. We don't want to take it head on. We don't need to. It has to be attrited. Okay.
We also don't know if we could control the outcome if we take on Turkey head on.
Maybe.
In terms of stability of the region, in terms of stability of
the issue
Europe.
is that you do have a bit of a wild card, and that's the factions in Pakistan, which is a nuclear power. It's an Islamic nuclear power. That's the thing people need to realize. We do have an Islamic nuclear power out there in the world. Right. And the ISI,
yes, but remember, in order to keep their nuclear weapons secure, they have to keep them on trucks moving around that are guided by American servicemen. So, yes, I agree they are a nuclear power. Yes, I agree they can cause problems. But I also agree that the U.S. military, if they decided that they don't want Pakistan to be a nuclear power anymore, they won't be.
Same thing with Britain.
Okay, terribly sorry, but I've been over there, right? If we ever try to take Pakistan on a war, we get our asses handed to us.
We wouldn't need to. We just have to stir up trouble with them in India, and they would be so weakened from the war, we could come in and do whatever we want.
Yeah, I'm terribly sorry, man. Too simplistic a view there. Okay, so give me a second. Back to Qatar, back to Turkey, back to Turkey. Okay.
Sure.
Point I was trying to make about Pakistan. And oh, by the way, maybe you're right. It's not actually true. But Pakistan has already articulated they will use their nukes in defense of Islam, Iran and other Islamic countries. And that's another problem. Iran is not Islamic. It's Zoroastrian. Right till the British flooded.
I hear what you're saying. I wish we could explain it in the next 10 minutes.
Well, till the British flooded the Islamic, etc. Okay. Anyways, point being is that we do have one threat that we do have to reduce and remove. It's not Erdogan, by the way, but it's generals and force. It's not like Turkey hasn't had military coups before.
It's also, people need to understand how the Turkish military functions. It doesn't function like a typical military like us. They're paid by their private industries. Okay, that's where their money mostly comes from. They're not just paid by the government.
Right. They have a constitutional right to overthrow the government if the government becomes too Islamatized, if it becomes the populist.
I was just getting to that too.
Right. They have a constitutional right, unlike any other military out there in the world. So
combine that with private funding, and you have a recipe for.
And that private funding can come from anywhere, like the city of London, from the Spiders of, et cetera. So Qatar's already off the table. Now we're removing Venezuela off the table. It doesn't mean that we still don't have, assets and resources and military and martial and just general fuckery assets capabilities we have to take off the table. And one of those is Turkey. And I'm going to I suspect that Erdogan is actually helping us and working with us. Because for all
I don't know if I disagree with that. I don't know if I disagree with that, but I think he's playing both sides.
Well, he has to. To survive, he has to. The one thing everybody's got to give Erdogan is he is a Turk. And he's about the Turkish people, and he's about Turkey above and beyond anything else.
And this is why
I don't want to say something hideously racist. So
in this crowd, but this, my friends, is why Trump, the first thing he did was move NATO assets out of Poland and Germany, everywhere else. Where to Greece, because if Erdogan
and Israel just signed a tri-party agreement with Greece and with Italy. And with Cyprus.
I didn't know that. So
yeah,
there you go.
A huge one, by the way. Yeah. Basically a Middle Eastern NATO against Turkey. That's how severe it was. It wasn't just a little thing.
Yeah. Okay, this is really important because that adds to the point. Just to make it clear for the audience, now we're talking about if Erdogan takes steps out of line, puts a foot out of line, he gets the boot of the most militarized country in all of Europe.
Or if he gets overthrown. This isn't a threat to Erdogan. This is a support of Erdogan. This is a message to because again, the Turkish military, just look at their constitution written with Ataturk, with the British direct participation and help. The Turkish military, a NATO force, by the way, right? The largest in NATO and the most experienced. They've been in kinetic war and irregular warfare for over 30 years, right? This is a message to the Turkish military. If you try to overthrow Erdogan, if you try to, mount a coup and then go to war to rebuild the Ottoman Empire, we will bring all this force to bear against you.
And And they have to do it in a way because Erdogan does hold a weapon against Europe in that he can open up the flood of mass migration again anytime he wants by packing the boats.
Nobody, again, back to like Maduro and back to what Tom said earlier, is Erdogan actually what we think Erdogan is?
No.
Was Maduro, was Gaddafi, were any of these folks over the last century, going all the way back to, we can take it all back to one point earlier, but let's just take it back to one point that created this certain ant's nest that we've all been investing tens of trillions of dollars in untold lives in. That's Sykes-Picot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
We can go back before, but that's the reorganization structure, the ant jar that really
Sykes-Picot, the Sykes-Picot Treaty of the
1930.
Yeah, fuck the French. Seriously, fuck the French. So Sykes-Picot, 1914, where they redrew the Middle East to ensure that we had nothing but sectarian violence in all of these countries and unstable.
Well, to make sure that these oil-rich countries never gained power, right?
That and EM really tapped into this too. It's not just that; it was that they could also scapegoat the Jews for all of that.
Correct.
It's that not only could they break them up into sectarian violence, but they can blame the power of Israel for all of it. And then that way they don't have to ever answer
our
for
favorite whipping boys.
And this is historically where I would come in and go, can you explain what Sykes-Picot is for the audience? As opposed to now, I'm just like, hey, I'm a fucking idiot. Can you tell me?
Well, Sykes-Picot
is the agreement that created most of the nations in the Middle East.
It's ant jar. It's as Alex says, that it's what created the ant jar that is the Middle East that we know that can never find peace.
It was an agreement between the British and the French of how to draw the borders.
How it was all going to get divided.
And none of the fucking native people had any say in it. They just did it.
Well, Lawrence of Arabia, to his credit, tried to work with Faisal, right, the head of Saud, right, the House of Saud, to work all of that out, and that's why they killed him after the war, right? Because they had worked out how to undo the ant jar properly.
Oh wow, that really ends that really ends the whole David Leanification of the end of his life. That which is all just Playboy bullshit. Like no way.
Correct. No. They killed him because he had
killed him just like they killed Patton. Just like they killed Patton.
Correct. Because what he had done, sitting down in the tent, there is a trust only developed in the Brotherhood of War, particularly the unconventional, dirty, irregular war, right? And there is a brotherhood of trust that is hard earned there, right? And talk about loyalty test, Tom, stuff we talked about before, the ultimate loyalty test. And they had worked out, in order to bring all of these warring peoples together, they'd worked out the agreements and relationships and restructuring, et cetera, after the war. And Lawrence had actually brought that forward. And to the credit, they actually articulate some of this in the movie. But that's why they killed him, because Lawrence could have quite literally just talked to the world about what they had worked out, about the new balance of power, and structures and all of that in the Middle East. And then the rest of the world would have brought pressure against the British Empire, right? Against, and the French, by the way, but, the European writ large. Well, here's why they created the ant jar. They created the ant jar because the most valuable resource in the world was in the highest concentrations there in the desert. And that's, Tom, back to what you were saying, oil. And so you can't let these people ever rise above a certain level of, you want them to have to constantly reinvest 80% of their created wealth back into defense.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And then not only was that oil in that area of the world, it was also around all the maritime sea routes that are the breadbasket of the world. Like you can't, and the British being a maritime power, of course they would think in these terms. So this all has to happen. And it's just fascinating, dudes, when you really go back over all this. And then again, at the end of the day, we're sitting here being told that it's really fucking stupid that we're sitting here talking about the city of London, and I'm like, what is wrong with you people? I mean, seriously, what's fucking wrong with you? It's so clearly, obviously in your face that this is what's going on. And, to everybody in the audience who may or may not agree with us on any of this stuff because they want to be caught in their fucking red ant, black ant, Arabs versus Jews mindset, like, fuck off.
For you Italians, right?
Affanculo, right? I'm not on to me. Like I whenever you can get me swearing in pidgin Italian, you've got me like doing it. So it's the only Italian I fucking know, other than like spaghetti. So, and I mean, seriously, we spoke zero Italian at my house except to swear. So,
Yep.
but the point being is that the Antar itself, this was designed, the real conversation we can't have, we're not allowed to have, is where the City of London ends, where old quote unquote Jewish power and Jewish banking power, and where it meets. And we're not allowed to have that conversation, that holistic conversation.
Or
because
how the French participate in this, and how the Dutch participate, and how Rome.
And and of course, there's a Jewish angle on all of that as well.
But they were the managers; countries. They weren't the owners.
Whatever.
They were the managers.
Exactly. Again, I'm not trying to say anything here other than the conversation we should be having is that one when anybody wants to split this off into these simplistic, if not A, then B narratives, fuck you. That's a divide and rule play. And I'm sorry, but who's the master at divide and goddamn rule? And it's not just hook noses. It's a lot of hawk noses and thin lips. Fuck you. Now look at it. I'm sorry. That's the way it is. I look at Montgomery and I don't think Jew.
Well, I mean, the most glorious obvious of what Ian was talking about was just the creation of Transjordan. It took the biggest enemy out of Saudi Arabia and gave them their own country in a place they've never lived before in history, and that was the Hashemite Kingdom.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah. I mean, so folks, it's the goal here, and for all of the stuff that we talk about, is not to just reinforce one side of a conversation. My obsession with City of London is because fucking nobody's willing to talk about it.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm just going to keep poking that snake and poking that snake and poking that snake over and over and over again until you fucking get it, until it strikes you in the ass and it bites you in the ass. Stormy Waters and all those fucking assholes out there who are complete fucking lightweights.
I'm now going beyond the unspeakable, and I'm calling out Rome. Because this is Rome behind all of it. What created? What was the reconquer? Right? How did Rome reconquer the British Isles? The Inglorious Revolution. But all that was set up in the 1500s. So I'm going beyond, right? So yes, let's undo the City of London, but that's just a headquarters for something much older, much more powerful.
Sure, and I know that people want, and I know that what people want. And this is important to remember about all humans, is they want a simple through line, a simple narrative when there isn't one.
Yeah.
And it's something I have to check myself on all the time. Dexter White does a great job of like, oh, by the way, dude, history's a little bit more complicated than this particular narrative that you just spun out. I'm like, okay, you're right. Sorry, but okay. But at times I strategically refuse to get off that through line narrative because it's the narrative no one wants to incorporate into the melange and the nuance talk.
Totally agree, Tom. I want to throw out, because you just articulated something I think is very important to demonstrate how we need to be careful of the antipode. Also, is there are too many people now who have become so disillusioned, and rightfully so, right? That they've become so disillusioned that they don't believe that there are some hard points in history where real things happened that everything is now based off of.
Right.
That sometimes we do know exactly who was behind it, and no, it wasn't the Jews, or it wasn't this or the what. No, it was our people, right? And this is what we did here. And oh, by the way, you can go look at it. Yes, you're going to have all these. So the other point is that, Tom, very much what you're saying, where there's conversations that we need to have, because we need to have those conversations. There, on the other side of it, people need to also not believe that nothing's true and nothing's real, and that some things haven't actually been worked out.
And that nothing ever changes.
And that nothing ever, because that's what that leads to exactly, Tom.
Right.
That
because
nothing's ever going to change. Yeah.
And because that is the ultimate psyop. The ultimate psyop is to demoralize everybody into thinking they have no agency.
Well, it's the conspiracy theory, right? It's that little addition of the theory word. Conspiracy is real.
My point is that the goal of all of the propaganda is to rob you of your reason, to rob you of your agency, and to rob you of the ability to think that you have any power. Because this is why they promulgate things like HARP, which is the dumbest fucking thing imaginable. You get people to believe that these fucking people can control the weather.
Smart people, educated people.
Right. I know. The myth of the omnipotent X.
Yes.
Insert
Well,
insert X anywhere needs to die.
It's back to, I wrote about this, right? The Great Deception. I've written several pieces on this, but it's just a replication of the Pharaoh has the ability to control the flooding of the Nile.
Right.
It's the same shit. Now, how do they do it? Right? How do they mind fuck you? They mind fuck you by telling you that nothing is absolutely real, by telling you that certain things are actually real. Mm-hmm. It's like these two things cannot be in the same place at the same time. Right. You can't tell somebody that nothing's real by telling them things that are, using as your examples, things that are real.
Right.
You can't do that. But that's how, and forgive me, I'm just going to say I'm going to piss off some more, but that's how estrogen thinks. Right? Gets you an impossible linguistic, where the only recourse is a throat punch, and that's kind of frowned upon.
Another big example of what you're talking about is the Indian thing. Is the fact that we're blaming the Indians for what the Indians are doing, both nepotistically and immigration wise, when it's been Europe that's been promoting this Indian
it's our own
migration the whole time.
Mm-hmm. They still got to go. And we still got to
agree for our economic system,
but I don't have to hate them. Now, the ones that are doing nefarious shit, like the ones that are sitting in our high corporate level systems and are signing off on fraudulent financials, to justify financial, stock values, et cetera, in the markets, those guys need to be hung because they know exactly what they're doing. Right. Yep. And these are the guys in the heads of, major divisions and major corporations and the major corporations. Those guys know exactly what they're doing to defraud the American people. Mm-hmm. Right. They need to be hung. Yep. But the common average Indian, I got I'm not going to develop a beef with them.
And at the end of the day, it's, if you're here and you're productive, care. I
disagree with that because that's a gray line. If you are here for any other, we did not want you here. Mm-hmm. We did not ask for you to come here. We did not give you a permission to come here. Somebody else in our house did, and they don't have the right to do that.
I
don't care if you're a good guest or not. Yeah.
No, I understand. Fair enough. Fair cop misspoke. If you're here illegally.
Or even legally, but through means that were fraud or defraud. Right. That's the other problem is.
But
we have a whole lot of people here legally that we didn't want.
Right. And we can reverse that. And you can reverse that by changing the terms of their immigration status. And I can tell you that we are actively doing that. And it's going to catch a lot of people, good people, who want to be here for the right reasons. You're going to catch them up in the net.
Take all the knowledge and skills and the assets you built and go back to your country and be somebody and help turn your own people around. By the way, free of the British and French, the Roman structure of systems that's been destabilizing your people, which is why you had to flee here in the first place. Right.
No, agreed. And that's why, and that's why this whole thing, I'll go back to what I said in the tweet that I was talking about Venezuela this morning, is like the real war is between state actors and non-state actors now, and the anti-war crowd is on the wrong side of this place, this fight, because they've been trained to think that anything state is evil. And they're not wrong that the state is immoral or this, that, or anything else, but it's also captured as well.
It's
of course.
Praetorians.
And the thing is that those non-state actors are bankrupting, destroying the lives of, and forcing the mass migration of, and enslaving billions of people around the planet, and then using that as an excuse to import them into the first world,
and then telling us that we're fucking in our own countries.
Tell us that we're fucking racist. No, bullshit. This needs to end. And this is a war. Get the fuck over yourselves. And if you need an adult diaper, well, you can go get those over fucking.
Here's how I say it. Well, I believe, I hope, I pray, and you guys can correct me where I'm wrong, but I hope and pray that we are ending the worship of money and wealth and restoring our sense of the divine in the worship of life, human life itself, writ large, not just our peoples, but human life.
Because I would say both. I would say we're doing both.
I don't understand, because these are not, So you have to stop worshiping money and wealth as a god, right? That's the financialist religion. And you have to restore life. Human life is the most sacred. Are you saying that both of
agree
those
with
are
you.
happening?
It's just that no, what I'm talking about is hierarchy of needs. Like, you have to stop the worship of the new cell phone and the worship of the new computer, but you have to keep the idea of property ownership and asset accumulation as being something that you aspire to. You want to own your own home. You want to own your own piece of
but hang on
the pie.
I totally understand what you're saying, but you conflated some things together. Okay.
Okay.
What we have done and this was done intentionally. This is the financialist. This is the very first actual conversation Tom and I had some time ago. What the Westphalian system brought in the 1600s, the conditions for which began in the 1400s, but really what the Venetian bankers, former Praetorians, become Dutch, become City of London, become American, become whatever, right? What they did is they moved us from a sense of the divine being a worship of life and human progress to a worship of the accumulation of wealth.
Okay, I can accept that.
Now, I don't, in order for us to worship life and the covenant with life as the divine, yes, you do have to build assets. You do have to, life has to thrive, right? It has to thrive, not be in penury, but it has to thrive. But that's not what happened. What happened with the Westphalian model, the Inglorious Revolution model, unfortunately, the American model, which was actually, anyways, I won't go too far down there. But the point is that we have got to restore human life and human thriving, no matter whose humans they are, right? Where they are in the world, as the ideal that we as a species are seeking, rather than my bank account and my fucking asset portfolio.
Agreed. No, I agree.
I don't care if you build an asset and wealth portfolio, but you do it off of productivity that you have actually no shit earned and you've helped create. Capitalism, and then, going back to real capitalism, terribly
and getting back to conversation. I think the three of us had. I know I had this with Alex Trainer a number of times. Is about focusing now on once your needs are met. Now you start building things that are beautiful. Now and what's really important, and this is important for me and the wife, because we're in the process of building, the home that we're probably going to wind up
closing it out,
being buried in, right? And it is, you can build it easy, you can build it cheap, you can pull in for the
you can appreciate the asset value.
Well, no, that's not what I'm getting at. You can conserve today's money for the future because you're not sure if that extra 110, 20 grand that you put into the more beautiful house is something you're going to need to get through when you're late. Because now this is a real opportunity cost situation. Do you spend $450 on a small house made beautifully with superior materials and all of that, or do you spend 300 grand and save that 150 and put it to work so that just in case you don't have you don't have the money at the end of your life because something changes. This is a real problem. This is the real issue that so many people really struggle with. But once you get past that certain point, and I'm just for the first time in my entire life actually have enough capital to have this conversation, as opposed to I'm going to build as much as I can for as little as I can, which is where I was previously. And that's the house I'm sitting in right now as I finish up my holiday down here in Florida with my family. Like that's a real thing that the whole, when we say the middle class has been destroyed, okay, this is what we're talking about. I'm proud as hell of this house, but this is not a middle class house. This is an unfinished house that could eventually become a good, nice middle class house. It's still got $25,000 or $30,000 worth of work to be done on it in order for that to happen. Well, let me finish one last point. But now we have to we have to start the process here, and we have to tell the next generation, we have to tell Tommy's generation and my daughter's generation that we're committed to that process of getting rid of the 65 to 70% that they think they can demand of you, of your labor and time, in tribute to their fucking bullshit financialist system, which is what we're paying in fucking taxes, folks. That's got to go. It's got to be at best they get 15, and and all they deserve for that 15% is to spend their lives in service of me. I don't spend my life in service of them.
To feed a monopoly for some private. Yeah. So Tom, I'm totally with you. The reason, historically, when we look at history, now we've always had these kinds of oligarchic systems that become too extractive through government systems. And, people really, I highly recommend that people go and read the works of the Scottish Enlightenment. Hume and Locke and Adam Smith and Bentham and Spencer, right? Not so much Bentham, take Bentham out of it. These were brilliant people who articulated all this stuff with immense detail and history and understanding, right? We don't need to replicate. Okay. What were all of them basically calling for? Not that you get to a certain point and then have to worry about the future because there's all this extraction, all this. No, it's like, okay, if I get to a point later in the future and I need to make some more money because I've come up short in some form or fashion, I can do that.
Right.
At any point in my life, I can decide through, productivity and innovation, I can figure out a way to go ahead and improve and add to my revenues and income without having to go play speculation in some, controlled, manipulated markets. Right. I can go start another business, or I can, buy a going venture that's successful and they're aging out and they want to retire, or
I can cut another 2 cords of wood and sell it by the side of the fucking road.
That's without all this licensing and so all this extractive,
because I've got land and the land is productive and I can use the productive land because I'm not paying rent on it on a day because I'm not a fucking serf. So I could make property taxes.
I could make money off of my land that I spent and I earned and I built up. So
and my skills and everything else.
Correct. And my relationships, because by the way, you have to spend. This is the other thing that we've done, in this anti-human system, is we've forgotten that the base of all human economic thriving, right? So the basis of all human thriving is human relationships. Mm-hmm. Period. This is one of the things that the ultra high net worth people really understand, and the very old families particularly really understand well. The money doesn't mean anything. The asset portfolios don't mean anything. What matters is the relationships related to those things, such that if I fall on some hard times or there is a retrenchment and some, that costs me greatly, I have the relationships whereby I can minimize those losses and I can recoup them through creating something new or refinancing or selling off some portion of the assets and then reinvesting, et cetera. Mm-hmm.
So the word to end this podcast on is deracination. We don't have any networks left. We don't have any networks left. We don't have our families left. We don't have our we have been deracinated, divided, and conquered. We are a conquered people.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. I want everybody to listen to us. Right. Yeah. I want everybody to think about it. Stop worrying about, if we lose the midterms, we're going to lose the country. No, we already lost the fucking country.
Correct.
Now we're fighting to get the fuck back. Now we're reversing the deracination. That's where our mindset has to be. If you put yourself in that mindset, that's a positive mindset as opposed to a negative mindset. That's a warrior's mindset, not a victim's mindset.
Let me give you another word, Tom, that goes directly with that, right? And this one's going to piss people off. Capitalism. Mm-hmm. What is capitalism? It isn't the systems, the structures, the processes, the organizations, the institutions, the entity. No. Capitalism is productive, mutually beneficial human relationships.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Nothing more, nothing less.
Right. So how do we reverse the deracination? We go back to actual pure form capitalism that the English system specifically is built upon from its very beginning. Right. And it's all about relationships. Mm-hmm. That's also why people need to stop, very much just what one of you or both of you were saying earlier, stop paying attention to what the hell's going on over there in Somalia. It has fuck all to do with us. Mm-hmm. What kind of relationships are you going to build by paying attention to Somaliland? It's right here. Exactly, Tom. It's right here. No. Who are my neighbors? Who's the guy that lives 3 miles from me? What does he do? What do they do? What does she do? Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, we know who our neighbor is right now. It's the guy from Somalia who's opening up a daycare center, hosing the government out of fucking $15 million a year. And that's what we have to pay attention to.
Well, we
If
all
anyone's going to
starve,
hose the
and
government out of $15 million a year, he should be an American,
Well,
goddammit.
how did he do that? He was able to do that through relationships, and how
I know.
it was that we weren't able to see it. We didn't have the relationships. Okay, I want to end on the warrior, if I might, Tom, and then Halsey. And please finish this out. But I want to send these people back, but a lot of them, using military assets, because that is, Tom, I think you're absolutely right. It's going to have to get to that. But I want to send a lot of them back where the aircraft doesn't land and there's no parachutes.
The Pinochet transport.
yeah, I was trying to keep Tommy on YouTube by saying let's just do touch and go, let's just do touch and goes in fucking Mogadishu airport.
Yeah.
I didn't say they weren't going to get fucking road rash when we kick their asses out the back. Just saying.
5 of you, 1 parachute. You guys figure it out. Go.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're lucky you only weigh 90 pounds each.
It's a military. Yeah. Here's a fat ass. Here's a parachute for a fatas, and you guys figure it out.
I'm threading the needle with YouTube. I'm getting very good. Whereas on Rumble or Spotify, I can just go scorched earth. YouTube is forcing me to practice Zen Buddhism. Just comments or just don't. I'm like, just keep paying me money. I just
right.
So, yeah. So
that's going to be the hardest thing for an Irishman ever.
Yeah.
Well, no. That's second hardest thing. The first hardest thing is to quit drinking.
Yeah, I did that. So I'm trying to do this. Well, that's the thing is I was kind of using one to replace the other. I can't get drunk anymore, but I can scream at people online and tell them, so it's, yeah, it's, anyway, yeah. Well, gentlemen, thank you for doing this. Thank you for carrying it as the Tums are slowly taking over my body and I'm going to fucking sue Sriracha. Other than that, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Always a pleasure. I'll send
Happy
it to you
New
guys.
Year's, everyone.
It'll be up later today. It'll be up in like an hour. I'll send it to you guys. We'll do the next one.
Perfect.
And gentlemen, Happy New Year and thank you so much.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Take care,
Cheers.
everybody. Hey guys, real quick, you guys know Basil Baz, ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. I just did a fundraiser with them the other day, and I'm going to put this onto every episode I do. They are special forces veterans who physically rescue trafficked children. They have since 1993. They have a 100% success rate. They do not take salaries. They all have day jobs, and they literally rescue sex trafficked children. Donations to them are a tax write-off. I get nothing from them, and they have not asked me to put this on. I've included this little clip on episodes for the last year or so, and I'm just re-recording it because I just got to meet him just 2 days ago for future. It's November 25th, 2025, but this will be on every episode now for the next year. And there is nothing better you can do with your money. If you can support them for even $5, please do that. They truly are doing the Lord's work, and I think we all have an obligation to do that. Thank you so much.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
Hey guys, a huge sponsor of the show is Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. Clayton lives down in Georgia. He's been on the show before. It's actually nearby where I went to college. They are a huge sponsor of the show. They give me some money every month, even when I don't sell enough to warrant that paycheck. Meaning that the show is not free. It's just that it's free for you. If you guys need prepper food, or if you're just interested in supporting the show, I'd please ask you to go to the link in the description. Go to Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, promo code TPC for 10% off. 72 servings per pail, 25-year shelf life. These things are, they double as dumbbells. Pasta Primavera, cheesy potato soup, mac and cheese, loaded baked potato casserole, chili mac, cheddar broccoli soup, cheesy lasagna, teriyaki rice. You can get banana chips. There's also raspberries, strawberries, and apples. There's a bunch of freeze-dried fruit, or you can even get seeds to plant your own garden. It's not a bad thing to have. It's like gold or ammunition. It's a good thing to have. It's a bad thing if you have to use it, but it's good. It's good to have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. So that's what I'd say. And if you just want to support the show, please go to the link in the description. Please go support them because they support me. Thank you so much, guys.